Hi everyone in cloud computing, and welcome to episode 20 of the Cloud Computing Australia show with Brad Nelson and the world's #1 cloud industry expert and thought leader, David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialist, placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. In this week's show, David and I are talking about, as a consumer, when using cloud service, you are also broadly protected by the Australian consumer law. Hi Dave, it's great to see you. How are you going?
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm glad we can do this mobile. I'm going to be all over the world over the next 6 months.
Yeah, it sure is a great thing, isn't it? And thanks for giving us the time. I know you've got a very busy schedule today, and in the next couple of weeks as well. So it's great. Thanks. Really appreciate your time on this one. Look, in the last few weeks, we've seen the privacy of millions of Facebook users being abused, really, and there's been more than 300,000 Australian users so far that have been mined by Cambridge Analytica. What do you think can be done to protect people from this happening in the future?
Well, I think number one, don't put your stuff on Facebook. Personal information, preferences, things like that. And so, I'm often given feedback by people out there that they don't know anything about me, and that's by design. Because I don't put personal data or anything that that I don't want to be consumed, out there on any kind of social media platform. And the reality is that the ability to mine the information has really been around since the social media platforms have been there. And really, Facebook can only make money if they're able to sell their data. And so, it's a bit of a naivete if we think that they're protecting our information out there from the likes of all these various what they call bad actors out there who are taking the data, people who are putting up quizzes so they can figure out if I vote Republican or Democrat and how much money I make per year and things like that. And information, by the way, even if it's innocuous, can be valuable. I mean, Cambridge Analytica just made a living out of figuring out how to slice and dice information so I can find out more about you based on very little information that you provide. And it's always surprising to me that people don't understand this. I can run data analytics against a data set and discern, whether somebody is how old they are, how much money they make, what are their interests, and all those sorts of things. And we know that via the browsers we use. And suddenly we get into Facebook, and if we ride motorcycles, suddenly motorcycle ads pop up. If we're doing RC hobbies, suddenly RC hobbies pop up. Clothes pop up if we're shopping for clothes. So unless we're really willing to take the risk, I don't think there's a lot that can be done to avoid some of this information being disseminated, other than the fact you don't provide your information. But the reality is that we all do every time we use a browser and every time we use Google and think we search for things like that, and they're gathering that data all the time. So it's a rather shocking thing that I think people are realizing that this is really kind of a core issue, but it's something I think we've been aware of for some time. Now, cloud computing may be a different game. They're not social networks. They shouldn't be gathering personal information. They should be handling personal information in certain ways that are compliant with not only the rules and regulations, but are compliant with the policies and the clients that they deliver. So it's a bit of a different animal. But the reality is we're going to have to figure out how to deal with this.
So true. It's so true, and even to the point where, I mean, I've heard stories of people talking and the microphone within apps, or your iPhone, etc., have picked up and then sort of you're being able to be served products through marketing based on what they've recorded. So obviously we've got the Google Pods and all that sort of thing, Apple Pods that are recording things at home. But yeah, it's quite a scary world, really, isn't it, when things get that intrusive? And like you say, we hope to think that cloud providers are just purely doing that and not trying to find out, or second guess our marketing needs, so they can sell it to Cambridge Analytica, obviously.
Yeah, I think the cloud providers are well aware that if they start breaching privacy, that doesn't hold well for them. People are going to, in other words, suspicious of them anyway, in terms of privacy and security and things like that. But if they start breaching privacy and gathering information to sell, which they don't do, by the way, that I know of, then they're going to be done for. But it's interesting, the government in the United States just passed something called the Cloud Act, which was allow cloud computing providers and email providers and anybody who holds online data to be compelled to give up the data, even if it's overseas. And so, those sorts of things are going on right now. And so, the biggest breach of our privacy may not be the social networks, but it could be the government itself, and in subpoenaing information that they may not need. And so we have the issues with the FISA courts and the Snowden revelations and things like that that are popping up, and people are getting a little suspicious of things, and I really can't blame them.
No, absolutely right. I mean, do you think the current consumer laws are enough to protect people?
Not really. I mean, you got to protect yourself. The reality is the government won't help you. Even with the new standards that are rising around PII and privacy and security that are out of China and Europe, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. The reality is you got to protect yourself. So you have to encrypt stuff that's up online. You have to, in essence, don't provide information you shouldn't provide. You have to make sure that you're compliant in anonymizing PII information. And it's up to you. If you think the government's going to monitor you and, push you in the right direction, that's absolutely not true. The government's role is going to be to punish you if for some reason you're so far out of line that you're caught doing something. But I think the reality is that most people who are going to, play fast and loose with people's data aren't going to be caught. I think that, this Facebook thing is about them being caught. It's not about them doing something that they haven't done for years. And so it's, people can make their own decisions about that, but that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I think they were caught. I agree with what you just said. They were caught actually. I think it was 2000. It's either 2008 or 2014, doing almost exactly the same thing. And sort of said, or Mark Zuckerberg was stated saying, "Oh, it's preposterous that you would even think that Facebook data could influence a presidential election." So.
Yeah, well, it all can. I mean, the Obama administration was really kind of the pioneers in social networking. If you think about it, when they kind of came into power, they leveraged social networking in their direction as well. And here Trump basically did the same thing. So I don't blame the campaigns for leveraging it. They're going to leverage anything you can to start swaying opinion. And certainly, companies and commercial organizations leverage social networking for all kinds of data mining activities and influence activities. And, we use it to promote this show. And it just it's kind of the way things go. I think for people to cry foul would only be around them doing something that's illegitimate. So gathering information they shouldn't have. And I'm not sure the deal with Cambridge Analytica and other things, and doing stuff with information they shouldn't have, or running afoul of the law. And if that's the case, then people should be punished to the full extent of the law. But the reality is people are going to leverage social media and social networking to influence us now until we die. And you might as well get used to it.
Very true, very true. We're part of the beast now, aren't we? It's sort of ingrained in our society. It's ingrained in business, connectivity. Everything is about being social and being connected. So if it's not Facebook, it's a necessary of the same evil is going to be, just replace it and work out another way of harvesting data. So yeah, it's just one of those things now, isn't it? It's a given. How do you see GDPR impacting the cloud environment based on Facebook and Google's data collecting?
Well, I think they run afoul of GDPR, the way I understand the law. And so you have to have information that if it's transmitted, personal identifiable information, if it's transmitted outside of the countries, it has to be handled in very specific ways, and individuals are responsible for it. Obviously, I don't think Facebook is GDPR compliant, as of yet, and nor maybe should they be. And so, but they would be in violation of the law, I think, as it's defined. And by the way, China is doing similar things. They've kind of pushed things down the road again until they push it out toward the end of the year, but they're basically going to protect against the movement of PII, personally identifiable information, out of their organizations as well. In fact, they've gone after sites in China like Baidu, who they view as violating the rules, which is encouraging, if they're policing themselves. But I think that Facebook's going to become under scrutiny by now by European and Chinese governance. You're going to see lawsuits start flying back and forth if indeed personal identifiable information was transmitted after the laws passed. And I think people are going to use that as a use case. And the reality is that Facebook has some damn big pockets. So I see them as a target for all of these compliance issues if they indeed run afoul of the law, and we'll see if that happens. But they deserve their day in court.
Yeah, I agree. There must be some people working frantically to try and tie up all those loose ends right now with regards to their privacy policy and how people are agreeing to them. Because there was an article on the news that people don't fully understand those pages and pages of terms of privacy that they're signing off to Facebook or Google or whoever really when you're agreeing to use an app or a user service. People really don't know what they're signing their privacy away to, do they?
No, no one ever reads those, and I don't. I'm sure you don't. And ultimately, it's going to be a bit of a legal, fun and games are going to be played around these agreements. And I think that it's going to be the point where we're going to have to simplify these things so people do understand what they're signing. Obviously, I can't, take a lawyer with me to sign my terms of service agreement for, iTunes or wherever I'm downloading, but I'm asked to sign those things all the time. And reality is, if you read them, they give away a lot of your rights in terms of using the data. They'll say we might use your data for marketing purposes, monitoring purposes, things like that. And just by putting that in there, they have legitimate access to the information. You may not like it, but you're going to have to take them to court or to get your data removed or things like that. And even if you do that, you may lose. So they're legally proactive. They're very smart. They're much smarter than the typical users out there who are leveraging social media. And that's an issue going forward because they're always going to be, just a little bit of a bully, so to speak, and the people who are giving up their information.
It's a minefield out there, it really is. And Dave, thanks very much for your time this week. It's great to have you back on the Australia show. I think we've covered some really hot topics this week. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I like this topic a lot. So you guys who are using social media, be very careful.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Dave. I know you've got an exceptionally busy schedule, so thanks for joining us. And thanks for watching, everyone. We really hope you enjoyed watching this week's Australia show. Some very interesting points. It would be interesting to see your comments on social media and in the comments box below. So you can get Dave on Twitter, which is at David Linthicum. I'm on Twitter as well, which is at Nelson_Hilliard. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks for watching.